Good morning. I hope everyone can hear and see me at this point. Javier Becerra, Attorney General for the state of California. We're going to be talking today about our CAMP program, our effort to eradicate illegal marijuana growth around the state of California. Joining me today, I'm pleased to introduce State Director Karen Moritzen of the Bureau of Land Management, who's having some troubles technically getting on, and that's why we waited a few minutes. We're hoping she'll either join us through this video or at least through audio connection. And also with us is Lieutenant Robert Blem of the Madera County Sheriff's Office. He also will be giving some remarks. Jack Nelson, our camp commander here at the Division of Law Enforcement, part of our Bureau of Investigation, is also with us and available. I'll probably turn to him for any answers to questions that might be asked later on. If I could also acknowledge our Bureau Director, Chris Calgieri, who is going to be retiring soon, but he has been our director at the Bureau for a while, and he will be leaving the Division of Law Enforcement soon to start some well-deserved retirement. And along with Chris, I'd like to acknowledge the Chief of the Division of Law Enforcement, Chief Ed Medrano here at the Department of Justice. Let's go ahead and begin. And we're hoping that Director Moritzen will be able to log on and join us as well. Well, so as I said, we're here to talk about the CAMP program, Campaign Against Marijuana Planting. It's the largest marijuana grow eradication program in the country. We're here to tell you about the results for this year, the numbers and the data. And so we're ready to share that with you. CAMP has been around since 1983. And I think it's safe to say that 2020 was CAMP's toughest and most challenging season yet in its almost 40-year history. At times, we were unsure whether we'd actually be able to take on the challenges of trying to eradicate marijuana, given all that's going on, the arrival of COVID-19. The pandemic has hit everybody, including us. The wildfires make it precarious. And so you put all that together and it's made it very difficult. But our teams have adapted. And by week 2 of what we considered our camp season, we had jumped into eradication mode and commenced our operations. It's been one of the busiest seasons, and it was a very busy start given recent years. But let me mention a few of the things that have made it difficult for our folks to operate. When you're having to adjust to a pandemic and wildfires, you have to figure out how to best train your personnel. You have to ask folks to persevere. You have to understand that there are other personal circumstances that get in the way. All that is to say that we persevered. We made it through. Not all cannabis cultivators have chosen to play by the rules and operate in our state's legal marketplace. So we have to do our job. And I'm thrilled at the work that all of us have done, whether it was at the local level, our partners that we rely on most, all of us at the state level, and certainly our federal partners, all working together to try to make sure we can eradicate these illegal grows on public lands. We're talking about, I should give a quick example of drug traffickers. In many cases, we're talking about drug trafficking organizations more often than not who try to hide their illegal grows by taking their operations places that you would never traverse. And so in many parts of California, the terrain is rugged, the regions are remote and very inaccessible, and it makes for illegal operations to flourish. Unfortunately, these operations also destroy America's public lands. They kill off wildlife, they poison our waters, and of course, they devastate our neighbors and our communities that are threatened by them because of the chemicals that are used by these marijuana grows. We find them in the surrounding areas where natural habitat is contaminated. The water is also contaminated. That water makes it downstream, ultimately to the water that we'll be drinking. And so whether it's the water or the soil or the vegetation, it's all harmed. Operations are led by the California Department of Justice, but as I said, we have local and federal partners and other state partners as well. Among them, the Department of Agriculture, U.S. Department of Agriculture, the U.S. Forest Service, the U.S. Department of Interior, the National Park Service, U.S. Department of Justice Drug Enforcement Administration. Within the state, our Department of Fish and Wildlife, our National Guard, our Bureau of Land Management, the California Bureau of Land Management, and the Central Valley High Intensity Drug Trafficking Areas Program. And then, of course, you've got our local law enforcement agency partners across the state of California. And without them, the sheriff's departments, the different local operations, law enforcement operations, we really couldn't get this done because they're on the ground day in, day out, and they're the ones that take the brunt of the hit when this work doesn't get done. So we want to thank each and every one of our partners for doing just a tremendous job for the 2020 camp season. It was truly a team effort. So the numbers, let's get to some of the numbers. For 2020, our agents were divided into 3 teams that covered Northern, Central, and Southern California. They conducted 90 days of operations across 29 of our 58 counties. These operations worked to shut down illegal marijuana grows across the state and resulted in the arrest of 140 individuals, the seizure, of 174 weapons, and the eradication of 1.1 million plants and some 20.5 tons of processed marijuana from 455 rated grow sites. The number of eradicated plants and rated grow sites were higher this year than in 2019, despite COVID-19 and the increased number of wildfires. Throughout the course of the season, camp teams protected public resources against misuse and safeguarded public lands and water from illegal pesticides, including the lethal chemical carbofuran. Banned in the United States, carbofuran is a popular pesticide for illegal growers of marijuana. This chemical is so toxic that just a quarter teaspoon of carbofuran can kill a 600-pound bear. I'll repeat that. A quarter teaspoon of this chemical can kill a 600-pound bear. It remains in our ecosystem long after its use, and grow sites our teams have encountered are often loaded with things like these pesticides, with trash, with other kinds of chemicals, aluminum, phosphate, other illegal fertilizers. These are poisons that make it into the products that are sold on the illegal market of the marijuana industry, and they're sold to unsuspecting consumers. These chemicals also seep into the ground and make their way, as I mentioned before, into our waterways. And because water is essential to these illegal operations, these growers often reroute the natural flow of streams and rivers to create unapproved irrigation systems, causing disruption of habitats and ecosystems. Give you an idea of the amount of water theft? In one site within a grow complex, you can have 29 million gallons of water being poached. And when you have 10 sites within the same complex, that's a lot of water. This year, our teams removed 405 miles of water lines and 192 artificial dams. 25% of grow sites we encountered and more than 50% of the plants we eradicated were on public lands. These are lands specifically protected so that Californians and Americans from throughout the country can enjoy them for generations to come. But the chemicals found in these illegal grows and the contamination that occurs, it hits the entire wildlife food web and the state's national forests. So, quick example, recent studies have found that 96% of certain mountain lions in California show exposure to anticoagulant rodenticides, which are meant to kill rodents, right? But they get into the bloodstream of mountain lions. And research has documented that some 85% of California Pacific fishers have been exposed to rodenticide. Finally, It's not just chemicals and water poaching that we find. Firearms at illegal grows has become a significant problem. The individuals who have these weapons are engaged in illegal activity and are protecting a crop that is subject to theft by criminals and seizure by law enforcement. When criminals trespass on public or even private lands, those weapons put the public in danger. And when our teams move in, they make their job considerably more dangerous as well. In the end, individuals who poison our waters, damage our public lands, and weaponize the illegal cannabis market must and will be brought to justice. They hurt the people of California who want to enjoy our public lands. They hurt the families who can drink the water from their tap because it's been polluted by illegal pesticides that are on their sites, that can't drink the water that's on their sites because of the pollution by these pesticides. And they hurt the farmers who rely on having healthy soil and access to safe water. And certainly, they hurt responsible Californians, including legal commercial cannabis business operators who play by our state's rules when it comes to cannabis. I want to congratulate our cannabis teams and our partners once again for doing a terrific job under the most strenuous circumstances in the nearly 40-year existence of the CAMP program. And I want to mention, all of this was done during a pandemic, and not a one person ever contracted COVID-19 as a result of our operations. So a job well done for 2020. We salute all the men and women who made this possible. And now let me see first if we have on with us State Director Karen Moritzen of the Bureau of Land Management. Director Moritzen, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here by audio only.
No problem. It's great to hear your voice. We're glad you were able to join us.
Yes. And
let me turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Attorney General. Good morning, everyone. My name is Karen Moritzen. I'm the State Director for the BLM California. And on behalf of the BLM, I want to thank you for inviting us here today and for recognizing the value and importance of the 15 million acres of public lands that we manage here in BLM, California, which includes treasured natural, cultural, and public resources that we're managing for the American people. So thank you. So our commitment to the CAMP program dates back to 1983, I think at the beginning. And we share a common goal with the Attorney General and the state, which is to improve public safety and protect our nation's important public lands. So the joint law enforcement efforts that we participate in through the CAMP program, we are really glad to do this because it provides us an opportunity to build a stronger and more effective relationship with our state and local partners against this illegal cultivation of marijuana. In this past year, thanks to the CAMP's effort, more than 100,000 plants were seized on more than 25 BLM sites just this year. And as the Attorney General said, these sites are often in very inaccessible areas, and it's difficult to get to them. And then we were taking the additional precautions of the COVID pandemic. So I'm very impressed with the efforts that these teams made this year. So as you all know, this illegal cultivation on the public lands causes damages to the vegetation, to the wildlife habitat. These operations pose dangers to visitors who come by and pollute the sensitive areas with the hazardous chemicals. These operations also, as the Attorney General said, divert precious water resources, and by doing that, continue to damage vegetation and destroy watersheds for their financial gain. Some of the eradication projects that are off of the public lands greatly benefit our public lands, I must mention, because of the improvement to the water quality that comes through the public land. So again, I just want to thank all our partners for continuing this partnership to address these issues. BLM has been really glad to be part of this effort, and thank you. And we'll continue this effort. So that's all.
Director Mortensen, thank you very much for those words, and thanks for the help of BLM and all of our federal partners. Let me now turn to Lieutenant Robert Blem. Lieutenant Blem is in the Madera County Sheriff's Office, and I'd like to have him share a few words with us now. Lieutenant.
Thank you, Mr. Becerra. Madera County Sheriff's Office and the local agencies that work here have had a long-standing partnership with the CAMP program. It's particularly valuable to our agency. Madera County, Eastern Madera County, is very rural, high country. It has a lot of public land, Sierra National Forest, key California recreation areas such as the John Muir Trail, Pacific Crest Trail, all run through the eastern part of our county. And the assistance to CAMP allows us to get to a lot of these very remote places where we frankly can't get by vehicle, and it would be quite a chore to get there by foot. We're seeing a lot of the same things that have already been mentioned by you and by Karen as well, with the dangerous chemicals, the carbofuran, the aluminum phosphate. I think another thing that hasn't been touched on in the public lands is we talk about the threat to the animals via these dangerous substances. But one other thing that we see and run into is poaching of the wildlife. And also a lot of free range cattle in the area. We'll see them poached as well. And that's another thing that is a benefit of attacking these types of organizations and activities. We're also running into the diversion of water. And one more threat, particularly relevant, I think, to this year, is the threat of wildfire caused by the illegal campfires in these grow sites. This year has been a tough year for us with the COVID-19 as well as the Creek Fire, but Madera County alone, through these operations, we are still looking at having seized more than 60,000 plants, 5,000 pounds of processed marijuana, and I believe we're at about 70 plus firearms this year from these sites. Given the recreation areas where we're having these grows, we also have the threat to people that are just using public lands in the forest for recreation. Every now and again, we have somebody stumble into one of these locations unbeknownst to them. And, these traffickers, they pose a real threat to people just recreating on these public lands. So for our county, our local agencies, CAMP has been a huge benefit. It's a very valuable relationship that we have with the state. And with that, I'd like to thank you for inviting us to take part in this.